Gotcha. Okay.
What
so
do you
if you'd like
think about
if you'd
these
like to-
injuries?
If you'd like to, I hate to see anybody get injured.
So you're going to prevent this from happening again?
Do you think this kind of force is necessary on peaceful protests?
Not on peaceful protests, no.
Are you saying what we did wasn't peaceful?
Yeah, I think there was unlawful behavior.
Excuse me.
Oh, wait a minute. I mean, I
say
cannot.
peaceful. I said peaceful, not unlawful.
Well, it was, you know, I want to be very clear. We're doing a very thorough analysis of all of the events of the last couple of days
What for?
in order to make sure that everybody's rights were protected, in order to make sure that our police officers are working within policy, to make sure that we have a full understanding of how this came down, and to make sure that going forward, if we need to be better, that we can be better. And
Okay.
so
Can I just say
I don't
that?
want to rush.
Can I just say that my rights were obviously not protected, very obviously not protected,
Well, I think.
and I would like to know who was responsible for allowing police officers to be there, and who gave the order for them to use those firearms on protesters.
So the police officers for the UC police force on our campus and all 9 campuses are.
I saw RPD Chancellor White getting that call me about a mutual aid request to actually have RPD show on campus. They can't just.
I am not going to be able to answer his question if I keep getting asked other questions before I finish. I'm happy to answer every question.
Part of his question.
I'm working on it, and you interrupted me,
I'm
John.
sorry, but
Okay?
I felt like you weren't actually addressing the entire issue. You were only talking about UCPD, not RPD, who were also on campus.
So why is the RPD on campus?
So, do you want me to answer the question?
Let's do stacks.
These are both questions.
Okay.
Stacks.
What do I do? Do I do a mic check?
We're going to do stacks. It's a finger
So there were 3 agencies of police on campus yesterday. I'm going to address them sequentially, John. The first is the UC Police Department on our campus, and the other 9 campuses are all trained police officers. They have full training. They are fully deputized in our jurisdiction. They've been trained. They carry firearms. And so if you want to talk about why our police carry firearms, I'd be happy to talk about that.
That training make it right?
Okay.
Sorry, continue.
Then we have we had the ability to put across all of the police from the UCs, and we had 7 campuses officers here. We did not have officers from Davis or Santa Cruz or Merced, but every other campus sent officers. And that totaled, I believe, about 105 officers. Okay. And then based on
Of UCPD.
of UCPD, okay? And they all had senior commanding officers here. And so not necessarily the police chiefs, the people that were at that level. And then they met and they had a center where they all communicated with each other. Then as the size of the crowd developed and some of the behaviors that were there, the decision, and it's a law enforcement decision, it's not my decision personally. I was consulted and agreed that we needed to have some additional officers. So that's when the Riverside City Police, some 40 officers, and don't hold me precisely to the numbers, but it's about another 40 officers came into the student union, the hub, and then talked to our officers and to find out what was going on and how they could be helpful. And then it still wasn't enough officers. And so then we called in the county officers. Same thing, they came in. It took a little longer for them to get here. So that was some of the delays that were going on. Because there were some other events going on around, some bank robberies and some bomb threats and things of that nature, which then distributed the police force. So finally we had about 185 officers on campus, all fully authorized. Now, the instructions were to not engage in physicality unless they were being assaulted or there was imminent danger to personal safety or property. And so I think you look at the facts, and I know the emotions are different, and I respect the emotions, I really do, and I understand them. But the facts are there were some skirmishes. There were skirmishes that used batons in some circumstances. There were skirmishes that resulted in the use of what's called less lethal force. And it's important to notice that you were hit on the legs. They're trained not to hit in the abdomen or the face or the neck or anything like that.
Hey, Bunky.
But, well, can I just, well, I'll come back to the, they were trained
That was
to do this. Yeah, okay. So, what's that stat? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we have
Okay, all right.
people waiting to ask you questions.
Yeah, that's fine, but I want to give a thorough answer to this important
Absolutely.
question.
Continue.
Please continue.
So, the event where you received these injuries, the decision was made by the officers at the moment that officers were being assaulted, and this was the response. There was no pepper spray used, and that was by purposeful design because of the issues that happened to Davis, right? And so that was a decision to protect themselves and to regain order and prevent others from being hurt. And it's a law enforcement judgment that they were fully authorized to do. And I am really feel very poorly that anybody got hurt. I should also say that 9 officers got hurt. 9 officers were injured yesterday, and there were actually some worse than that. And there were only 2 arrests booked, felony assault arrests, and they weren't our students on any of the campuses.
I was there when the second one happened.
Yeah. So, and there was a woman who was arrested and released who was one of our students. Upon analysis of why she got arrested, she was released because the violation didn't rise to the order of being arrested and cited. Okay. So the 2 that were arrested on felony assaults are a man from Corona and a man from Los Angeles. They're not students. They're not UC students on any campus to our knowledge. They were outside community members who wanted to come here. And so I think
why does that matter?
Well, I think it matters in the sense that our students were peaceful. The students from all of the campuses were peaceful. They were angry, you bet, and there's a lot to be angry about.
I'm not saying.
And they were, they had a chance to be heard, and they were heard. There were a lot of things. The reason I say that it's important to me that they were non-students in the sense that our students understood the level of protest and where to stop. And it was outside people who don't value our values on this campus.
So are you saying that I don't value your values, or that I was not peaceful because I got shot?
No, I don't know. I haven't seen what you personally did. Okay, I'm talking about the 2 who were arrested. They did not value our values, and they assaulted police.
So that's not your call to make either, because you haven't seen anything that they went through either.
No, and I'm not a police officer.
Presuming
Exactly.
allegedly assault.
No, it's alleged assault, and I said that. If I didn't, then I misspoke. I mean, this whole thing, this whole process then is again, there are videotapes, and it's all being analyzed in a thoughtful, thorough way, and at the end of the day, the right thing will be done. So for those 2 guys.
Will you release those videos? Would you mind moving to the stack?
I needed first on stack.
Hold on. There's a stack.
So let me ask you a question. Would you like to put on some stuff?
I'm gonna wait for the stack to close.
Go ahead, Anita. She has a question.
So stack means this is the list of questions.
The list of questions.
Okay.
In order
So you were quoted as blaming the sit-ins and the protests on a few aggressive protesters. Well, I want to know, one, what is your definition of aggressive? Because I know violence has a very definition for many people. So I would like to know what your definition of aggressive is. And also, you're saying that the students were peaceful, and I agree with that. But I also did see many outside protesters being just as peaceful,
I agree with
me
that.
being one of them.
And I agree with that too.
And I too was assaulted by officers. I mean, not to the same extent. I don't have any physical injuries. I'm bruised, but so I would just like to know why the people who are from the community, who this is a public institution, just have just as much say. Why you don't value their opinion as much, and why you consider them not as peaceful.
I didn't. I think what I You know, and again, I don't have the precise words I've used, but let me say what my intent was. That there was a small group of people, and I believe some were non-students and others are students, okay, who became aggressive and sort of pushed the envelope, okay, and ended up getting then a police response to try and hold physically a line so people couldn't get back in the building and disrupt further meetings. So I don't know what the technical police definition of aggressive is, but in some respects, sort of colloquially, it's sort of looking for a fight, right? I mean, it's just pushing, being asked to back off a little bit and then pushing even harder. But I'm sure there's a technical law enforcement and student affairs. I'm not got the right words here, but that's kind of a common sense definition. But it was a very small cohort. And so I'm being very careful not to generalize on campus members or community members, age, gender, or any of that stuff. But within the people that were here yesterday, there was a group who were looking for a fight.
I need to ask you personally because I was on the front line there.
And so
with
can
the
you tell me where you were and back up a little bit to the moments that you want to talk about, so I kind of get a context.
So I was there in the front with the police, right in front of me. There was a female officer and you know their line.
So were you on the loading dock side or this side?
The event I'm talking about was at the loading dock.
Okay.
And standing there, where they told us not to move in further. We didn't, and still I was hit twice with a baton in my legs and a baton in my chest. I was hit in my arm and knocked down. So I need to know exactly how I was being aggressive and exactly who is held accountable. I know we've asked you already, but I need to know who is held accountable for that sort of violent tactic of hitting people with batons when we're not armed. I have nothing on me. I did not have weapons. So that's kind of my question.
Sure. So again, I haven't seen your deals, but we will review everything that happened back there. And so the individual decisions made by officers in the heat of the moment are decisions that come by the officers down there. And they made the judgment.
So you're saying the officers are accountable? Individual officers are accountable?
Well, I think, if I could answer trying both these pieces at once.
That's fine.
There are a set of policies that guide the behavior of our police officers. Okay? If their behavior was within policies, then they're responsible in the sense that they were the ones there. But they're not responsible in the sense that they made necessarily an error. Okay? Now, if they acted outside of policy, then it becomes a different matter, right? And then we have, we analyze, and then it becomes a personnel discussion. Somebody made a mistake, was it egregious, was it minor, and so forth. So there's a lot of work to do to analyze this event. It's going to take time for people to go through the videotapes, chronicle things, catch your narrative. I hope you get a chance to speak to police and characterize your view. And at the end of the day, we'll get it right. Okay? And I'm sorry you got banged up a little. The physicality piece of those confrontations is regrettable. They're actually reality. So let me see. So we have a stack.
Next on stack is Ben. No, it's set right now.
So in regards to the last person who was arrested, Umberto, he was arrested when there was only about 6 of us standing within 15 feet of the police. For the hour leading up to that, or the half hour leading up to that, he had been sitting on the ground with a group of 5 or 6 people to the far edge next to the swimming pool. There was no one else blocking. The police could have walked up and down that walkway as they pleased. They sat there. I witnessed 2 lines of police form behind the riot line. Okay, when they do that, as I've seen throughout these protests, they break through and they create what is a snatch squad. A snatch squad, where they target 1 or 2 people to burst through and arrest people. They usually do this when there's a lot of commotion going on. But at the time, they were sitting there still. I warned the group who was sitting down to get up because they were about to be kettled. Kettled is another thing that they do in these riot situations. They surround you. They don't necessarily arrest you right away, but they surround you, and then when you get freaked out enough to try to maybe twitch or move, they call it resisting. And they say that you're trying to flee them or whatever. So I saw that about to go down, and I warned them, and they got up, and we all backed up. I turned my head for 1 second to the right. As soon as I did that, I heard people yell, "Look out." That line of cops burst through, tried to grab me, targeted, and when I ducked out of the way, messed up my foot really bad, got out, they grabbed Humberto. They also grabbed another girl who fell to her knees and started praying. Justin and I, we were standing there, and we saw the girl, and we ran back, and we grabbed her, and we got her so she wouldn't be arrested. Humberto, he's the male, so they had about 6 guys on him. He had no chance. He had been sitting peacefully for the previous 45 minutes. The only time he stood up and made any movement was when I was warning him that he was about to be arrested. He was in a group of 6. What threat? Why was there even a riot there? Why would they arrest us when we were there? There was about maybe 500 students on this side. We were next to the pool. There was about we counted. There were 17 of us, and there was 18 police on the front line. There was another group of about 10 police who formed the snatch squad. Yeah. So there's 28 police and 18 students, and they felt the need to come through and particularly snatch up one of us. Guess what? You're not going to hear about this because there were no cameras, because there was only 18 of us. There might be, hopefully, there could have been some personal cameras on that scene. I hope so, but maybe is there security cameras behind the loading dock? We're gonna ask for those from our lawyer, because I would like you to respond to why they would have arrested one person in that situation.
Well, I'm gonna keep saying this because I don't want to be misquoted, but I don't know why he was arrested because I didn't see it. I haven't seen the tapes, but it could. Undoubtedly.
I don't need you to go on if that's gonna be your final. I just want you to know that happened, and it goes against your previous. It goes against your previous theory that there was justification in the arrests.
I would just say one thing, having lived a long time on different university campuses, that sometimes an arrest is made well after the crime was occurred.
But they targeted me and went for someone else.
Well, again.
That's my response. Can we leave it there? I don't need to hear any more response.
But I do, since you're all going to film this and put it up on the web, I want it.
Unedited.
Well, somebody's going to. I mean, I'm not that dumb. I look old and frail, but I'm not.
You don't look old and frail.
Is that police officers sometimes make arrests minutes, hours, days after something unlawful that warrants an arrest. And so in the absence of any specific knowledge about what we're discussing here, Seth, I just say it's not unusual for an arrest action to occur not in the moment, but in time afterwards.
Can I respond very briefly? Okay.
DJ, I'll put you on
the thing that scares me about that in the history of Occupy and the history of protesting is that they arrest you and then they come up with the charge. See this? Everybody knows. So that's why they could target anybody. And whoever ends up in that net, they'll come up with a charge for them. Or 5. They come up with $25,000 bails for a member of the staff who works in that building or wherever they now have the media center. They charged him for assault with a deadly weapon. He had a video camera. He was filming. He's sitting in jail right now. Or no, they bailed him, right?
Yeah.
No, he's loose.
Or
The UCR student that was
Okay.
released.
Anything else?
The bails are
Yes.
yeah.
My question has been answered and I withdraw.
Okay, DJ.
Is that an official movement?
No. Jessica.
My question, we were talking about the police and you were talking about how there were not enough. Now, my question is, students have the right to assemble. So if there's a large mass of students, does that give you the inclination that you need more police or you need enough police to suppress the students? Because in my opinion and in my experience with Occupy, the police, when they come in, especially an outside agency like the Riverside Sheriff's Department, they escalated the situation completely. There was nothing near the antagonism that happened after they got there until they arrived. So either they're there to suppress or they're there to intimidate, which I guess is the same thing, you know? So are you afraid of the students
Am I afraid?
What
think so.
went into the decision to bring in so many police to contain a situation that was peaceful until the Riverside Police Department got here?
Right. And open fire. So, so again, let me try and I actually want to answer your question as thoroughly as I can. Okay. And again, this being chancellor, you have to know a lot about a lot of things, but I don't know the details about a lot of things. When the assessment of a circumstance like around the Regents meeting, I mean, I think when I think about it objectively, so let me just put it on me rather than on anybody else, is the history of Regents meetings have had a lot of protests ever since I came back to California in 2008, okay? I've seen them in San Francisco, I've seen them in LA, I've been in the middle of them. I was in them when I was your age as a student around Vietnam, okay? So I have over time, and I don't think you would...
I'm listening, I promise.
Are you? Yeah.
I'm just trying to share.
Kind of share?
You want
So it's reasonable for us to have expected to need to have a well-controlled possibility of environment if we needed to use it. It's just being prepared. So we had, and I went through the numbers a little while ago, it would have been great if we never had to use any of those officers, except, a couple at each door just to make sure that people who were in there had been authorized to be in the building. I don't think any of us want to be in the case where something really goes bad. And I can point to examples not around protests, but on the horrible things that have happened on some other campuses where somebody with a gun shows up. If we're not prepared, then how can I feel that I'm comfortable in keeping this place as safe as humanly possible for our students, our faculty and staff, and our guests? So I'm going to err on the side of being prepared. And that's why we judge the tenor of the crowd, the sophistication of the crowd, the mood of the crowd, the size of the crowd, and realized that if something really bad started to happen, and it never really bad, never became really bad, we needed to be prepared. And so when you're out of your own officers, then we do have this, and I forget the precise name of mutual aid, thank you. And so the city officers who came in tend to be the officers who work around the campus, so they have a better sense of what a university campus is. And then we still didn't have enough, and then we needed county officers.
Why do you think you didn't have enough? That's the part that's confusing.
Yeah, I'm not the judgment on that.
Who is?
Law enforcement is, and it was a group. Our chief, coupled with the other chiefs or assistant chiefs from the various campuses are there. And they're looking at a variety of variables as well as their experiences. And so bringing in those officers, yes, and I absolutely agree with you.
Wait, so ultimately you didn't have the executive decision on how many cops are on this campus. You're saying there was a team of law enforcement that made the decision?
Yeah, I'm not, I couldn't look at you and say we needed 50 or 10 or 100. Right? So
You have the names and badge numbers of the team of officers?
Because they didn't have badge numbers in the front line.
I'm sorry, so you mean
The team of officers who made the decision to call in more officers, you have the names and the badge numbers of them, I'm assuming.
Well, I'm assuming I do too, but I can't tell you who they are right now. I mean, it's our chief of police and our staff. It's the other UCPD people that were here from Berkeley and San Francisco. It was a collective discussion. They were actually very thoughtful and sophisticated and talked about it and made decisions. I'm not making decisions on the law enforcement size that was thought to be ready for the potential of something really being done.
So you are not making decisions on the public safety of your students?
That's not what I said.
Do you have authority over
I
the
said I
cops?
was not making decisions on precisely the size of the force that was necessary to be well prepared to manage the day.
That's another word you keep using, prepared.
Yeah.
You say you're prepared for all this stuff to happen, but you don't have the names and the badge numbers of the police who made the executive order to call in more police officers.
200.
You have access to them.
200. So I don't know that he could have.
No, he said it was made by a collective decision.
So someone made a decision to bring in RPD.
And well, let me be very clear. I'm not going to hide behind my chief of police. I fully support and endorse the idea of having more officers here because I wanted to have as safe of a day as I possibly could.
Have you noticed that that doesn't happen in France or Germany or Spain when because they have bigger numbers than us and less police at their protests. It is a particular American model, and you know, for somebody who saw the overreaction that happened in Vietnam, it seems like you would see this as an overreaction too.
Yeah, actually, I did not see it as an overreaction.
So you think that the police?
Yeah. I think if we brought in the California Highway Patrol, or brought in the National Guard, and I think it was
brought in the sheriffs.
SWAT team.
They're pretty
No.
SWAT team.
Who were those guys on top of the new engineering building with those
There
sniper
were actual
teams?
SWAT
Like they had
teams
those hats
on
like they're in
campus
Vietnam.
looking for
Who are those guys?
those
Okay, I have a question
Actually,
about
can we get back to stack so we don't have this big?
I'm not going to have much tolerance if it's just being random.
Yeah, let's point of process. Let's keep this orderly.
Get it?
SEMA was next.
Is this my check? Is this the sign?
Point of process. That's the one you want. SEMA. I guess I had a question.
You okay?
I can't hold my tongue, so it's fine.
Desiree, did you want to get stacked? No. David, you're up.
Yeah, I was wondering, what's the justification for the bloated incomes of many of your administrators that are working in the UC system, which seems to be the excuse for raising tuition fees so high?
Yeah. Bloated on the standard, I mean, there are a lot of well-paid people.
Overly well paid.
Well, I mean, I think that's...
I don't know about a lot either.
So
I wouldn't say that the janitors and you know, the teachers, the admins, a lot of the people that are doing the work.
I agree with you. Yeah, I think, I'm very concerned about their level of compensation. And so we worked hard. We gave everybody 3% raises this year for the first time in a while. For many people, the first time in 4 years.
And what about the management?
I
heard it went up 400,000.
No, my pay actually has not changed since I came in 2008.
The Regents did though.
The Regents don't get paid. They don't get paid directly.
Not directly. That's nice.
Yeah. So, but I think the discussion about this in an objective way is, particularly in the medical centers and so forth, that there's a market out there, and to have people that are running Reagan Hospital and things like that, you know. UC wants to have really good people to help people stay healthy, and there's a price to that.
Don't you think it's kind of ironic to have the man's name on a hospital that actually basically closed down a large part of the mental health industry in this state? Ronald Reagan.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but we actually have another march scheduled for 4.
Where are you going to go?
The courthouse. It's about citizens
You're not
united.
going to call the cops on us, are you?
No, I'm just going to join you.
Yeah, it's the
downtown.
The bankruptcy court at 12th and Main. So
he might join us.
You got to make it going. It's going to be
so that's
get cold.
whoever wants. I mean, free association, right? But I'm gonna go. So whoever wants to ride with me.
Wait, just there's 2 items.
We have
a identified local clinic that is free of charge. I'll provide you with the address for that. And then you had indicated you wanted to make a police report, but not go to the police station. We can have someone come over.
Actually, you have to have an incident report before you file a police
Okay, well, I can have someone come over here to talk to you about that. I don't know all of the mechanics about that, if you'd like. Sure. Okay, we'll get them over here as quickly as possible. If you just want to have a seat, I can take you inside, or if you want to wait outside.
You know, the Regents are
you decide.
really worried about the UC. They care about education everywhere.
On-site medic.
But the way that thing was drafted last year, it really had tons of money coming to the UC at a huge cost. So I think they're analyzing.
So do you want me to have someone come over right now?
It's a good bill for us.
No.
Then they'll end up probably supporting it. They want to be very kind of smart about when they come out and endorsing things.
Well, just as a conceptual question, I'm just curious, because no one ever considers it in this world.
Yeah.
What do you think about health or education as a human right?
So when the cops come
as a lofty goal. Do you think you can get there with this movement?
I think this movement has been very helpful because it's raised, it's cutting across all sectors. It's just not really saying squawking about something. So I'm actually very encouraged, and I hope I can get some of you to join with me when I go to Sacramento. Those guys need to hear voices.
They all do. Most people don't participate. It's kind of a situation where they all must go from the city council in LA. I've heard this one. They're in bed with the chamber. People think that there's people in the sky.
Have you done it yet? Oh, you have cars. Good.
So my statement is that I mean, a lot of us, most of us, pretty much all of us, believe that yesterday's, as you heard, that we thought it was unnecessary for that amount of force to be used, and so the funding that is going towards that, we don't agree with that, and that is our money, and so that's a grievance that we have, and I know it's a grievance that we're going to be addressing.
Okay, and I'm glad you are, and I acknowledge and understand it. I really do. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Be safe. Be careful.
The background for it, so you can understand why I'm asking this. Yesterday, as you know, we went in and we were going to attempt to bring our grievances to the Regents. As we went to bring our grievances to the Regents, they decided to only allot us 20 minutes, which got extended another 20, and everyone only had 1 minute to speak. And in that minute, nobody even really accomplished more than introducing themselves and barely starting their speech. If they're going to have a public comment, and they should have a public comment, I'm not saying they shouldn't they have it extended? Shouldn't it be something that does get through all of the grievances of the people because they are there to represent the people?
Yeah, I mean, I think they do limit. Sometimes it's 20 minutes. They look at how many people signed up. Okay, and again, I heard yesterday that it was something like 40 or 45. 60. Okay. Day before there was, the number on Wednesday.
I'm not sure the exact number. I believe it was in the 40s when it began today.
So on Wednesday they had scheduled an hour. Okay, and they started going through the names. They called Tim and Sue and Manuel. Nobody was there. And I forget the total number of people who talked on Wednesday, but my rough recollection was maybe 10 or 15. And so they got through in well less than an hour. And people had a little more time. Okay. Now the reason there's an overall time limit is there's also a bunch of business. And the Regents, whether you like it or not, are a state-authorized body to conduct business in the municipality. They have to get through this stuff. So there's enormous legal and financial repercussions, so they have to get to their reasons. On the second day, they had scheduled 30 minutes. Because normally, just historically, the first day has a lot more activity than the second day. Here it was different. And so Sherry Lansing, as the chair of the Regent, has the authority and the responsibility to decide on the spot how long to go. And so she did it in a couple 20 or 30 minute chunks. That's just, and then people who were speaking and didn't get a chance to get all their words out were encouraged to put a piece of paper, which then gets sent around to all the Regents to read. And if you didn't have a piece of paper, you can still send it into the Secretary's office. Say this is part of the public comment from the January 19th meeting at Riverside, and then it will get read by the Regents.
I feel it would be, or how do you feel? Shouldn't it be more geared to getting the people's voice heard and getting a response back from them? Possibly a separate meeting held before where its main focus is just public comment. It's not a time restricted thing. People can go up and there's no business afterward. That way they can have all of the people's opinions fresh in mind going into the next meeting and still have that open business.
That's an idea that's worthy of consideration. I do know yesterday that 3 of the Regents visited with 18 students for an hour after the meeting was over and had a really terrific conversation. And the students had some ideas that they hadn't thought about. I do know that anytime you get more than 4 Regents together at once, it becomes an official meeting. So you can't, then it has to be noticed, and you have to have security, and all of a sudden, from just a casual conversation on the campus, you have a $20,000 event, right? But individual regents are going to the campuses to have those open conversations with students and faculty and staff. There are 2 regents here today. They're still here. They're walking around talking to everybody today. So, I mean, actually, they really do want to hear the stories and listen. Not only the grievance, what's some ideas on solutions? And I've always thought over time that I could say, I hate this, but here's an idea. Like you just gave me an idea. And I'll actually pass it on. Let's get more sessions in advance.
What makes them experts on what's happening?
It's a great idea.
Well, now that we got through that, you understand some of why we started to try and get people to come out to us. We were trying to demand the Regents. We wanted to talk to the Regents. That was the whole point of the meeting. So it was still a peaceful protest. Everything was peaceful.
Inside.
Then
inside. It was always peaceful inside.
Yeah, it was peaceful inside. Then when it got outside the stairs, it was still peaceful. And then it hadn't gotten violent at all. There was no violence at this point. But the police ordered everyone to disperse. They got a little bit hostile, but they never actually did anything. They were just standing out there still demanding to talk to the Regents. Okay, from there the police started to bring more and more people in. That's understandable. I can understand getting reinforcements. We were playing that little cat and mouse game all day, but we fast forward to back when we're at the loading docks area, and we're just sitting back there. No one's trying to push lines. No one's trying to do anything. The police just decide at that moment to use way excessive force. They were sitting there poking people in the ribs with their clubs. People were getting shot with those plastic bullets. And there was no escalation. They were the sole escalation into that point of it. So at that point, you're firing on innocent protesters. It was a peaceful protest. Of course, the protesters are going to get angry because now their rights are being taken from them. So you label it a violent protest at that point when they start to get hostile because the police escalated it. Don't you feel that this is a problem?
Were you back there when there were 3 vehicles surrounded? Were you back there?
Yeah.
So those 3 people in there were the provost for the system. He's a neurosurgeon. Was the vice president for health who runs the hospitals, and a person who does investments. So they're in these little pickup trucks, right? And they're surrounded. And they were, I don't know, 50, 60 minutes or scared. So there had to be a response, and I have not seen the tapes. It was described to me as a lot of protesters, and then the police got in and circled each vehicle, and then people sat down, no sort of a standoff. And I talked to the occupants of the vehicles on my cell phone. I asked them how they felt. So we had a long conversation. We let that just play out. Where do we go and get those people who are, legal way, and I'm not a legal way or a trap. And I said,
we always talk about tuition going up.
Calm down. People will realize they weren't Regents. The real focus of the conversation. I think just sort of so there's a lot of the use of capital. I mean, there isn't always waiting things out and trying to determine on the police side. What do you have to respond to? Or can you just listen to things yelled at you?
I really realize
that's the mean. It'll solve itself.
Do they acknowledge
I would call the word restraint. And I think from another point of view, it wasn't restraint.
I don't know.
That's what you know, because I see a lot of thought in how to respond. Until I see the tapes.
You're asking me a question. I don't know what this is.
I mean, maybe you've heard this
question as to why it appeared to be calm, all of a sudden turned into a police action. There was something I'll find out.
Or
they said they want us to be better in the future, and if there were violations, we don't see them.
I'm definitely interested in hearing some kind of justification because I was there and I did witness it.
Did you get hurt?
Did you get investments in? So they had their agenda.
Did you get hurt personally?
No, I was up at the front, but luckily it's just the 2 people around me. But unfortunately, they were both women. One of them was in high school even, getting attacked by police with a baton. And then, of course, our friend who got shot by the police a few times, and then a couple other protesters from some other sector who were shot.
Yeah, and then students from UCLA. And afterwards, when everybody left, I came out here.
Do you think about the contributions of this university made to the defense?
I appreciate it.
All right.
To economic.
The outside, inside, influence.
So just the point. I mean, like, I'm not making an argument.
Do you think
It's not. It's just.
on that type of action, and perhaps spread it through the UC campus?
Yeah, I think what will happen is that'll be a great day to have presences on campus and presence in Sacramento.
Yeah,
right?
I think so too.
And I think it's quite a ways away, so we'll get organized and communicate our students will get involved.
Can you teach outs to the campuses? The faculty can go and teach in public spaces.
Right, and so then people who don't want to participate don't lose the opportunity to have a lecture or a discussion, but they can also be delivering a message. And we have many faculty who know how to do that well.
Okay.
Not everybody.
Well, if you can encourage it or promote it or something, because, like you said, that outside pressure in the form of a general strike this country hasn't seen since 46 up in Oakland, I think. But that would be awesome if you could help the Occupy movement. That
You think of those 100 million men or 100,000 men things and filling up the mall.